Man, oh man, oh man. We talk about hacks and we talk about tools. I just finished up a series. Maybe it's not finished. Maybe it's going to keep on going right now. A series on being a tool whore. Tool whore. Man, look at all this tools. We got tons of stuff. Tools. Man, I love them. I love tools. Got the iManifold, got the Sportland tool, got CPS digital black gauges, got tester gauges, got smart probes, got all sorts of stuff. How much is necessary, how much is not? You know what? People are real full of shit on this, and it's my opinion. And if I offend you out there, I mean, I'm sorry. Be like the 50 subscribers a month that decide that my channel is not right for them. But maybe you're going to be one that thinks it's perfect. Who knows? I'll take that chance because, what do you have to lose? Just subscribers. Analog gauges. Analog gauges get the job done 99% of the time. 99% of the time. Is that accurate or is it 98? I don't know. It's one of those two. 98 or 99. You don't need digital gauges almost all the time. We're sold this image that you have to have all this cool stuff. You have to have all these different tools, all these digital tools, all these different sensors. You have to have them. If you're going to do a good job, you're not getting a full picture of the system. You're not getting the most accurate picture of the system. And people out there are going to say that I'm crazy. And the tool whoring community will say that I am full of shit. And I am, but not in this area. Other areas, completely full of shit. This area, not. You don't need but this little deal. And, picture two of them, obviously. Maybe a red one. Maybe not this one. Oh, oil pressure gauge. Here we are. You don't need but this most of the time. When you walk up to a call and you're checking charge, and charge is not the issue, you're fixing an electrical problem, do you have to go loaded for bear at the system? No. And isn't it possible, by looking at these gauges and seeing the positions, the refrigerant pressure, superheat, and subcooling, to ascertain most of those problems just by looking at them? I mean, people were like, I don't know. You have air probes, you have a high temperature split, typically you have a low suction pressure. As long as you have a understanding of what kind of system you're working on, whether it be like we talk about high efficiency evaporators, ultra high efficiency evaporators. Once you understand a little bit about the delta T between return temperature and evaporator temperature, you look at your gauges, even if these stupid little gauges, you can pretty much see what's going on with the system. Now, you might not have that down to the 1% look at the system, but you pretty much know what's going on. A little bit of experience goes a long way, and we're made to believe that experience can be swapped for these tools that tell you what's going on. It's not true. It's not true at all. Because all I've seen is when you switch these two things out, experience and high performance tools, technician falls apart. Now, it'll tell you all sorts of stuff. But unless you have the ability to understand, what is the use of it? Because you have to come up with a solution. I mean, it's not all cut and dry. It's, you might have a low suction pressure and low superheat and go, well, maybe the belt's loose on the blower. Maybe the filter's dirty. Maybe one of the ducts is collapsed. Maybe the ductwork's too small. Maybe one of the dampers is closed. There's a long list of reasons why it happens. Even if the reasons are grouped into larger categories, airflow restriction. You have to be able to understand based on experience. And I'd be willing to bet that, quoting my good buddy John Israel, that an experienced technician with these can beat unexperienced technicians with digital gauges or digital analyzers like the iManifold, like the field piece, which we talked about on the Working Joe's website. Field piece gets a bad rap. We won't go into that one today, but we might do it at a different time. Having quality tools is good, but doesn't mean that tools that are analog or dials can't get the job done. They're less accurate. Understood that. Understand that the less accurate tools can be used because the accuracy difference isn't so large. And we're not talking about piece of shit analog gauges. We're talking about good analog gauges. Go buy something that's worth a damn. If you have something that is of a good quality, even if it's of an older technology, you should be able to ascertain what's going on with experience. You got a system that's running a high head pressure. How do you figure out the head pressure is high? Well, if you're an I manifold user, you figure it out from the target head pressure based on the SEER level of the equipment. Without experience, you don't always know what that SEER level is. You don't know how to guesstimate. I guesstimate based on my knowledge of the model numbers. I guesstimate based on the age of the unit, but I don't always know. I guess. How are you going to know every single SEER rating? And even if it is the proper SEER, is the matchup proper? I'm sure that people could look through the AHRI database on every single service call. My gosh, we have enough time for that, right? Because in the summertime, I work for myself, but if I didn't, in summertime, if your boss is calling you going, hey man, we got 50 fucking calls today. What are you doing on the first one still? Sir, I was looking through the AHRI database to make sure that I had my proper evaporator and condenser. And the guy's like, hold on, you're fired. You know, what are you going to do? You have to live in a realistic manner. This world where every service call is in a laboratory bubble, we walk inside, the machine is running in a 72-degree environment. We know exactly what's going on. We have 4 hours to solve the problem. No pressure, no worries. When in real life, you have your boss yelling at you. You have 4 other customers you're trying to... In the case of someone like me who owns a business, it's not the boss yelling at you. It's 12 other customers calling you going, you got to come here today, man. It's 94 in here. Man, you got to come here today. I have a baby. I have 2 old people. I have a room of orphans we're reading to. It's always shit like that. You have to be able to deal with that, but you're not going to be able to come loaded for bear for every call. You must live in a realistic environment, which includes this. So, what does that mean? Does that mean it's more realistic to get a set of convenient, readily available, quick to use tools that are accurate, or carry around the HVAC analyzer and set it up with your team of service technicians that's arriving with you in tiny little vans, all setting stuff up and getting it worked up together? And I've heard people say that, you know, it's about the same time. It's about the same time period. But you know what? No, it's not. And not always, you know, people are like, you have to let the system run for a while to test it out. Well, sometimes you have that time period. Sometimes it's a different problem where you just have to check charge for a minute, make sure there's refrigerant in there and it's somewhere near where it should be. You don't always have that time. And to me, streamlining the tools to make them useful is more important than having the loaded for bear, NASA-styled, you open up your jacket and there's filled piece accessory heads on either side. You're like, here's the one I need today. And you're setting them all up. Maybe I'm just a crabby son of a bitch. I don't know. It could be. I've been told that by my children in the morning when I don't get enough sleep. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I'm going to perform my job. I think that if you get your shitty little no-name $30 tools and figure out what your targets are supposed to be, figure out what the numbers mean and how to pick out numbers from in between the lines. And that sounds weird, but looking at your gauges and knowing that the secondary effects, have them a list in your head of secondary effects that you think it might be. And we talk about them on the Pro channel. There's a bunch of videos about causes for superheat to be low, causes for subcooling to be low. It's not just about charge, it's about air. Mainly about air. Airflow, charge, and then when you have the fun, when they interlock, it becomes 2 different problems merged into one. And you have to think about what variation it is. How much of that low superheat and low suction pressure is lack of airflow? How much of it is lack of charge? Low suction pressure, regular superheat. What could it be? Perhaps it's low airflow with low charge. Because with low charge, the superheat goes up. But if your airflow is low, it's going to come back down again, even if you have a low charge, because your airflow is low. those gauges aren't going to recognize that stuff. Or they're going to classify it as a basic clusterfuck of problems that you're going to have to figure out anyway. So you might as well concentrate on the area that's most important, figuring out the problem. Now, at the end of the day, if you become well-trained, you can spot these problems, you can spot the typical issues, you have this bank in your head of problems that you can choose from, and then you select the one that's most likely and proceed under that assumption. If you say, hey, now I want to use this stuff, I think that's the great way to do it. I think you say, hey, I'm going to get this cool stuff, and I can use the data from it, which is the way that I see it. When I use tools like the iManifold, I'm not using it because it troubleshoots for me. I rarely use the troubleshooting. I use it because it brings me the data that I want, so I can use it. It just brings it to the hub. Me, I'm the hub. And I decide what's wrong with the system. I don't use it for the troubleshooting. To me, that's, it's too vague. It's not too vague in a way that it can't be so specific, because you are sort of trying to analyze something via a machine through a certain set of parameters. So it can't be so specific that it actually is as good as a human brain. It's going to point you in the right direction. It's like having a furnace code, and it's not necessarily exactly what the code said. Pressure switch failure. No, it's probably, that pterodactyl that landed in the flue. Not exactly what it says. It takes experience to get that. Experience is the key. So, that's all I'm trying to say, guys. I try to be as straightforward as possible. I think that we are led to believe on YouTube and Facebook that a certain set of things are true, that we have to buy these tools. These tools will be, it's like Jerry Maguire talking to, what's her name? Tom Cruise is talking to Renee Zellweger. He's like, you complete me. That's how we are with the tools. We're looking at tools like, you complete me. No. This thing gives you information, and this figures it out. A method of delivering information. It's not artificial intelligence that's going to figure out your job for you. You're going to have to do that one on your own. And you can't buy experience, and you can't go around and cut your way through experience. You're going to have to go out there and get it the fucking hard way in the field. And you know what? It's worth it when you get it. We're all heading down that road. We're at different points on the road. Road's this long, I'm right here. So I can't do any preaching about experience. I'm still heading down the road. But it's a worthwhile trip, and it's one you got to make.